Ever get that feeling? When you order something online, it's like, are you sure the right thing's going to show up?
Yeah, like trusting some kind of digital magic is happening behind the scenes.
Totally. Makes you think about all that data flying around, like a giant game of telephone with product codes and prices.
And we all know how that game usually ends up.
Yeah.
Garbled mess, right? Speaking of which, these documents, they're in Estonian and English. Talk about a potential language barrier.
So right off the bat, we're dealing with multiple languages on top of all this data. What's the mission here? What are we diving into?
This deep dive, we're tackling how businesses wrangle all that data, make sure it doesn't turn into a chaotic, jumbled mess.
Yeah.
And that's where Synchronizer comes in.
Synchronizer.
It's like the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Between all these different software systems, so everyone's on the same page, data-wise.
Okay, so no more lost in translation with product description.
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots. Suppliers, where all that product info comes from.
And the clients who need to use that data.
Precisely. Like a giant, well-organized marketplace.
Yeah.
Suppliers bring the goods, data in this case, and Synchronizer. It's the translator, the organizer. Make sure everyone gets what they need.
So no more wrong orders, mix-ups, that kind of thing.
Well, it's not quite that simple. The documents mention this thing called supplier mapping, and it's crucial.
Supplier mapping sounds kind of like a treasure map, but for data.
Essentially, yeah. How Synchronizer takes that raw data from the supplier, makes it usable.
Right.
And that data, it can come in different formats. JSON, XML.
Hold on, JSON, XML, those are...
Think of it like different ways to write your grocery list. One's a paragraph, the other's a table.
Okay, so no matter how the supplier sends their data.
Synchronizer can decode it, but it gets trickier. What one company calls product SKU, another might call product code.
Oh, I see where this is going. One little mistake.
Chaos. Imagine ordering a book, but you get, I don't know, a box of bananas instead.
Not the kind of surprise I'm hoping for. So how does Synchronizer make sure that doesn't happen? Is there someone, like, manually connecting all these data points?
That's where it gets really interesting. Synchronizer has its own language, kind of like coding, to manipulate, transform that data.
A secret language for data. This just got way cooler. Tell me more.
You don't need to be a programmer to get it. Think about navigating through folders on your computer using to go deeper.
Okay, I'm with you.
Synchronizer is similar,
Okay.
go through the data, to access specific parts. It can even use aliases, like shortcuts. Present for that.
So even without speaking the language fluently,
You get a feel for how much control Synchronizer gives you, like fine-tuning a high-performance engine
we're talking about taking a jumbled mess of information.
and turning it into, well, a symphony, a perfectly orchestrated symphony of data.
And the conductor of this Estonian and English-speaking orchestra, Synchronizer, but we're just getting started, right?
Oh, yeah, we haven't even touched on how artificial intelligence plays into all of this.
AI. Now things are getting really interesting. AI, data management, it's like we're stepping into the future here.
A future that's already here, really. And with Synchronizer, it's less about spaceships and more about, efficiency.
Okay, so less science fiction, more like a super-powered assistant for all this data.
Exactly. Always working, always learning. These AI services, they can handle some pretty amazing tasks.
The documents mentioned a couple. Translation, for one.
Huge one. Imagine needing product descriptions, like in every language.
Talk about a global marketplace. No more waiting for human translators.
Saves a ton of time, resources. But it's more than that. Accuracy matters, right? Building trust with customers worldwide.
Makes sense. And the other service mentioned, image alt text.
Oh, right. Making the online world accessible. For people who can't see the images.
I've always wondered about that. How do you describe an image, without actually seeing it?
Someone usually has to write those descriptions, alt text. But AI, it can analyze images, generate that text automatically.
So Synchronizer's not just organizing data, it's making the digital world more inclusive too.
Precisely. But we've been talking a lot about the supplier side. What about the clients? The ones receiving all this data?
Right. We can't forget about them. They're the ones who actually use this information, right?
Exactly. For their online shops, inventory, all of it. So Synchronizer needs to make sure the data flow is seamless.
So we're back to mapping again, but this time it's about delivering the right data to the right client.
Exactly. Like a perfectly planned delivery route, making sure each client's system gets the data in the right format.
The documents mentioned Akinio PM, Magento 2, ERP-li, different platforms, different needs.
And Synchronizer handles it all. It's that universal translator, the conductor of this complex data orchestra.
From a jumbled mess to a perfectly tuned symphony. But hold on, we're talking about practical stuff here, real-world applications. What about the academics? Are they involved in this data wrangling too?
Oh, absolutely. Remember Synchronizer's secret language? How it automates data manipulation.
Yeah, like it's got its own little coding system going on.
Researchers are taking that concept even further. AI planning, they call it.
AI planning. Sounds intense.
Essentially, it's using AI to create those complex data workflows automatically.
Yeah.
Imagine a system that not only organizes your data, but figures out the most efficient way to process it.
Like a superpowered data strategist.
Exactly. And it's not just theory. The document actually mentions the LIGO project,
LIGO, as in the gravitational waves LIGO.
the one and only. They're using similar principles to manage all that data from their detectors.
So the same tech that's making sure I get the right book delivered could be helping us unlock the secrets of the universe.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Uh,
Whether you're a global corporation or just trying to organize your music library, data management is everywhere.
it's like this hidden world, and we've just scratched the surface. We could probably talk about this for hours.
Easily.
Yeah.
But for now, let's shift gears a bit. We've covered a lot of ground, explored the complexities, the innovations.
But before we get too lost in the data, gotta wrap things up. But we wouldn't leave our listeners empty-handed, right?
Always got to have that final thought. Something to ponder, maybe while you're browsing online later.
Okay, I'm ready to ponder. What's the question we're leaving everyone with?
We've talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mislabeled bananas, gravitational waves, the sheer volume of data. So I'm wondering, what's more amazing?
You're asking, like, are we more impressive for creating all this data or for figuring out how to manage it?
Exactly. On one hand, you've got this constant flood of information, almost impossible to grasp, right? But then look at what we can do. The tools, the technology.
It's almost like a race. Data keeps growing, but so does our ability to handle it. Makes you think about what's next, you know?
Systems that predict the future. Solve problems before they even happen. Who knows?
It's mind-boggling, from getting our online orders right to understanding the universe.
It all comes back to data and how we use it.
Well said. And on that note, gotta call it a wrap.
Until next time, keep exploring that hidden world of data. You never know what you might find.